right, so before we get into actually doing their nails, a couple things here. So for one, you see that she's back tied. And this is because I'm going to do it by myself, and my back tie acts like an extra set of hands. The second thing is I have her on her cot. She's very familiar with her climb. She has a really good association with her cot, so getting on the cot does not automatically mean that I am going to do her nails. The other thing that she was previously introduced to is the idea of being back tied on the cot, because again, we don't want to do anything that's going to make them assume we're about to do something uncomfortable. Now granted, I'm not actually going to like do her nails right now. I'm just going to go over how to neutralize your dog to doing nail trims, and this is something that really needs to be done every single day. You know, when you get a new puppy, these are the basics to how to start to get them to do their nails, like how to acclimate them to touching their feet and things like that. So I might touch a little bit and give her some food. Breezy has really good food drive in general. Most dogs you need to be in this is a bag of chicken with a little bit of her kibble mixed in. So ideally your dog is on a training diet already, so your dog's not getting, no, I'm not gonna reward her if she's gonna paw me. Okay, so just as long as she's nice and calm, I'll give her a little bit of chicken. Ideally your dog's on a training diet, so your dog's not getting any food in the bowl, and this would be part of your training for the day. And this session should never be super long. You're talking a 3, maybe 5-minute session that involves looking for an opportunity to jackpot your dog. A jackpot would be a couple, like 1 or 2 handfuls of food, depending on the size of your dog, the food motivation of your dog. Breezy's a dog that we could give a whole handful to, and know that she's going to be hungry in an hour when we want to work with her again, or hungry when we walk inside and we're still dropping her food, because anytime you're out with your dog is a training session, right? Anytime you and your dog are physically together, your dog is learning something. You're either directing the learning or your dog is. So I like her just laying here, right? I make sure that before I introduce her to any nail trimming equipment that she is completely neutral and has a positive experience to my setup. Okay, so I don't want my setup to mean, oh gosh, here comes something crazy and uncomfortable. So again, I will wait and I'll mark behavior out of Breezy that I like. So as long as she's pretty calm and she's sitting, she's not barking, she's not pawing me, I'm going to continue to give her little pieces of food. Now the first thing I'll do is maybe touch her feet while I feed her. That is so important. Okay, so a lot of people will sit there and they'll touch, and now there she did good. They'll touch and feed. Well, the problem is if I touch and she doesn't like it and she starts mouthing me, now what did I do? I taught my dog to mouth me to make me stop, because a lot of people will pull away at that point. So ideally, while we're teaching them how to tolerate certain touches, I'll have them actually taking food from my hand while I manipulate and touch. I let go before the food in my hand runs out. That's so important, because I'm keeping her mouth busy while I'm touching her feet. So she has no opportunity to turn around and mouth me. Now let's say you touch your puppy's feet while you're feeding and your puppy lets go, and your puppy just won't stay focused on your hand while you're touching their feet. It means your puppy's not hungry enough. Okay, either means your puppy's not hungry enough or your session's too long. Maybe your dog did it initially, your dog or puppy. You can do this with an adult dog too. You know, either your session's too long and maybe you can only get 2 foot touches in before your dog says, oh gosh, this is enough, I'm not going to eat anymore. But most of the time it means your dog's not hungry enough. Okay, most people, the dog isn't hungry enough because they give their dog food in a bowl. And why would your dog work to overcome something uncomfortable if they know they're going to get to eat later, right? So again, I'm gonna have her eat, I'm gonna touch her feet. I might give a little bit of a pinch to the toes, not a hard pinch, but I'm holding the nail the way I'm gonna do it when I actually start cutting her nails. Okay, so I might hold the nail, give it a firm, a little bit of pressure on the nail, because that's what she's gonna feel. So Breezy's handling this beautifully. So now I've got my Dremel. I don't clip nails personally, my husband does. My husband's very good at cutting nails with actual cutters and not cutting the quick, not making the dog bleed. I stink at that. I am awful at that. I am really good with a Dremel. I have been using a Dremel for nearly 20 years. I've done thousands and thousands of dogs with a Dremel. So my 2-year-old's out here. And this is where we can also train our dog for distraction, right? Your dog shouldn't pay attention to what's going on around them. They should pay attention to you when you're working with them. So anyway, I like using a Dremel. Now, some features about my Dremel that are worth noting. First of all, this is an actual rotary tool. It is not the tool that you go and you're like, oh, here's a pet Dremel, it's got your fancy guard and all this stuff. This is an actual rotary tool. So I can use one of those fancy petty paws Dremel things or whatever if I've got like a 2-pound dog, because the 2-pound dog's nails are not really thick, okay? So the problem with some of those actual rotary tools that are marketed to pets is they don't have a lot of kick behind them. The motor is not strong. So if we go ahead and we have a dog with really long nails, really thick nails, or a dog that's just really nervous about the noise of a rotor or the vibration of a rotary tool, it takes you a long time to actually get the nails pushed back because not the engine, the mechanics behind it are just not powerful enough. All right, so the other thing is I have a cordless, I have a rechargeable battery and a cordless rotary tool. So I can do this outside. Why do I want to do it outside? The big reason is that when you're doing a lot of nails, it's really dusty. So I really don't want to deal with that in the house. Also, you know, obviously I have kids. Maybe I want to get away from my kids and not have to have them intervening, something like that. I like the flexibility of a cordless Dremel. Now, I've seen people that have actual rotary tools that are not marketed to pets, but are still not powerful enough. So this is, I paid like $120 for it. I think it's going for about $90 right now. This is the actual brand Dremel. It's an 8220. It has a whole bunch of features. Like I said, it's an actual tool. I just use a fairly coarse sandpaper tool on this, and again, if you're using it and you feel like it's taking longer to get your dog's nails done, you probably have to change it. I find that I need to change the sandpaper on this about every, I don't know, 5 or 6 big dogs. Okay, so I can do all my Pomeranians, I can do like a dozen little dogs. Breezy here, Breezy's toes are like, they're not super thick, her nails are not super thick right now, so I could do probably a dozen times with Breezy and not have to change the sandpaper. But when it starts getting white, you notice it's not dremeling as fast, something like that. At that point, we would want to change the sandpaper. Now, another feature, like I said, this has multiple levels on it, okay? So if we listen, we're going to see how Breezy does with this. I'm going to feed her when I turn it on, right? Because she might get scared. So I have it really low, all right? I have it at the lowest it'll go. It sounds like one of those petty paws at this level, where it's like, hey, if you have like a you know, 8-week-old Chihuahua puppy, it's going to work great. Anything bigger than that, it doesn't work. And we see Breezy is not bothered by it, right? She's not bothered by the noise. She's eating normally. If your dog goes from eating politely to grabbing, being really it's a sign your dog is nervous. So if Breezy was getting really grabby on me, I would turn it off, you know, give her a break and maybe free her up. So Breezy's going to do a very long session. This narrow, here comes Ellie to help. So, good girl, tell her, good girl, Breezy. So while Ellie plays with her, right, I feed her for paying attention to me and not mouthing my 2-year-old. That's a whole nother video. But anyway, worth noting. Good girl, Breezy. So Breezy's going to do a longer session than you would ever do with your puppy. Why can I do this with Breezy? Because Breezy's got a lot of food drive. So usually you do this for about 2 minutes. So again, I got really low levels. That 10 was, like I said, the equivalent of doing an 8-week-old Chihuahua. So as I turn it on, I'm going to feed Breezy. I'm going to turn it up. When I turn it way up, okay, good. So Breezy's a little bit, she acknowledges it, but again, we're not seeing her get grabby or anything like that. So Breezy doesn't mind the noise, is what she's telling me. All right. So the high power, that's what you have to use on most of your larger breed dogs. Any dog over 40 pounds, you do best with the really high power. Now, as you're learning how to Dremel your dog's nails, the mechanics of it, you're going to use a low level because you want to make sure you have control of it. You don't accidentally hurt your dog. But anyway, this video is more focused on how to condition your dog, not how for you to use this Dremel tool. That's another lesson. So anyway, like I said, we start by touching Breezy's feet. Breezy is showing me she doesn't care. Yeah? Yeah? Are you going to go to Papa and go do some treats? Because these are yucky. These have Breezy's treats.
Heel.
So we know that Breezy doesn't mind her feet touched. We know that Breezy doesn't mind the noise. I am going to turn it up because she was a little bit more observant. So let's see how she does with the noise. Good. And again, before my food runs out, I turn my rotary off and I pull it back to me. Because let's say that she had a problem with it behind her head, and I can tell because she's grabbing the food, maybe her eyes, even though she's facing me, maybe her eyes are trying to look back and see what's going on behind her. All those are signs, or her ears are pinning back, or she's cowering or something. Those would all be signs that she's not comfortable with the noise at a higher power, okay? So I want to make sure that she's still eating the food while I put it all the way around her. There you go. Good. So there, I touched her and she looked back. Right? And you saw at one point when I had it over here, this ear twitched backwards. And again, I don't see a whole lot of nervousness. I see a dog who's casually observant. Good. And we saw there, the tail's wagging, right? So the ear twitched back, something's touching me. But it wasn't like, what is touching me? That's a big, big difference. So overall, Breezy is handling this very, very well. Okay? And then the next step would be turning it way down. Okay? Because I don't want to accidentally Dremel I wasn't really thinking about this, but by putting it on the cot, it's vibrating the whole cot. And that made her kind of step away, right? So we know the vibration she's finding more suspicious, and now she's grabbier with the food. So what that tells me is when I actually touch this to her feet, there's a good chance she's gonna pull back and say, whoa, what was that? All right, so what I'm gonna do is, and like I said, I wasn't even thinking about that when I lay it down and there's a metal bar here, it's vibrating the whole cot. And we saw that she kind of pulled away. She's getting a little grabbier with the food. Okay, so that tells me that we should probably end it there. So again, I don't want to push her to the point where I'm having her in total avoidance, where she's, where she's avoiding the food, all that kind of drama. All right, so I'll do it one more time. I'm gonna turn it just a little bit higher, and I'm gonna put it on the cot, so it's gonna vibrate the cot. I'm gonna feed her first. Good, good. So again, she didn't move away, but she was a little grabbier on the food. You can't necessarily see that, but I can feel that. So again, she's not hurting me, but I can feel that she's nervous and she's releasing that nervous energy into my hand. Okay, so I am gonna end it here. And then what I'll do is later on this afternoon, I'm gonna do another session. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add an assistant to this session. So there comes a point, and because Breezy's doing so good with this, she's moving faster than you know, another dog might take this. Another dog, I might have to have this turned on this far away, and I feed, turn it off, and maybe that's my whole session because the dog's nervous about the noise. All right, so Breezy's handling this very, very well. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have an assistant come and feed her while I manipulate her feet. And this will tie into the other video that I made with Oliver the yellow lab, and how you saw my husband holding Oliver while I did his nails. So when we have a dog that's pretty good about nails, we can have an assistant loosely hold, and that's the dog that's not totally on the point where we can do it all by ourselves and the dog stands still. That dog is still, you know, kind of in transition, and it depends on what your long-term goals are. I'll be honest, with my dogs, I always have an assistant. I have a couple of Poms that I can Dremel completely by myself. But I always take advantage of having an assistant, whether that's my 12-year-old holding my Poms for me, or my husband or one of my other trainers holding one of my big dogs for me. I don't want them holding my dog and my dog panicking, you know, like trying to bite and alligator roll and all this craziness. But I just find it easier to have an assistant hold them, and I just don't bother taking the time to train it beyond that. So I'm kind of lazy like that. But I'm going to show you how to get to the point where you can do your dog completely alone. I'll show you all that here using Breezy as our example, how we would get that far. All right, Breezy, good job. Good girl, free, okay.